A young Apache woman offered herself to save her sister, but one brave cowboy refused the payment, and everything changed. Witness courage, honor, and love unfold on the harsh frontier. Don't miss this epic tale of survival and destiny. Watch till the end. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment where you're from. Let's get started. Dust swirled across the sun-scorched plains of New Mexico territory, painting the air with grit and heat. Caleb Turner, 36, leaned against his cabin door, squinting at the approaching trader. His boots sank slightly in dry soil as the man's horse neighed nervously. The horizon shimmered, and tension seemed to ripple across the desert like waves. The trader spat into the dirt before speaking, voice sharp and demanding. Your debts are due. Take her as payment or lose everything. Caleb's jaw tightened, his hands flexing near his holster. Months of mounting debts weighed on him, but his principles demanded restraint. The desert wind carried both dust and the trader's cruel intentions. Then he saw Ayana, a young Apache woman of 25, standing silently under the harsh sun. Her dark eyes burned with defiance, framed by long hair partially tied back. Even under fear's weight, she radiated strength. Caleb's chest tightened. There was a fire in her gaze that demanded recognition, even from a weary cowboy. The trader gestured toward her with a crooked finger. She's mine to offer, he sneered. Pay up or she goes. Caleb swallowed hard. The thought of using another person to settle debts made his stomach churn. Yet the temptation of clearing his obligations without bloodshed made him pause. Conflicted between duty and survival, Ayana's eyes met his. No plea, no fear, only quiet strength, almost regal in nature. Caleb felt a strange pull in his chest, an emotion he hadn't felt in years, a mixture of protectiveness and awe. Suddenly, the transaction he had considered inevitable seemed impossible, and he wondered at the weight of his own morality. The trader's grin faltered as Caleb finally shook his head, voice calm yet firm. I won't take her. Find another way. Caleb stood tall, hands hovering near his holster, eyes never leaving the man's. Tension crackled like the desert wind before a storm. Thick and heavy, carrying unspoken warnings across the arid plains, Ayana exhaled softly, the first relief escaping her lips. Caleb stepped closer, studying the intricate tribal markings on her arm symbols etched by tradition, stories of family and survival. Their beauty and complexity fascinated him, evidence of resilience and culture. She shifted slightly, watching him, her breath shallow but steady, like a living piece of the desert itself. The trader cursed under his breath and mounted his horse, kicking up dust as he rode off. Caleb turned to Ayana, voice low and careful. Are you hurt? She shook her head, her expression steady despite the tremor in her hands. Only frightened, she admitted, her words soft yet filled with quiet power. Caleb gestured toward the cabin. Sit by the fire. You're safe here. For now. She hesitated, studying him for a heartbeat, then moved closer. Flames licked her face, highlighting the delicate curves of her features. Caleb watched her, understanding that this night would alter their paths, weaving their fates together in ways neither could yet predict. The desert wind whispered through the sparse brush outside, rattling cabin walls and stirring dust. Caleb remained vigilant, eyes scanning the horizon for the trader's return. But there was something new in the air, an unspoken energy between him and Ayana. He felt it in his bones, a spark of protection and perhaps something deeper, a bond forming silently. As darkness settled over the plains, they sat near the fire, enveloped in silence. Caleb offered her a cup of water, and their hands brushed. The touch lingered longer than expected, unspoken yet profound. In that moment, the debt between them became more than financial. It became personal, emotional, and deeply significant. He noticed the faint scars on her wrists, traces of a life lived in danger and hardship. Every mark told a story he could not fully comprehend, yet he respected the resilience it represented. Caleb's thoughts drifted to the countless nights he had wandered the plains, alone and wary, never imagining he would find someone who mirrored both vulnerability and strength. Ayana's eyes followed the dancing flames, reflecting their light with intensity. Caleb's gaze traced the curves of her face, noting the subtle strength in her jawline and the soft determination in her eyes. She was both delicate and fierce, like the desert itself, beautiful, unforgiving, and alive with secrets waiting to be discovered. The silence stretched between them, filled only by the crackle of the fire and the distant call of coyotes. Caleb found himself speaking softly, sharing fragments of his life, the long rides, the harsh winters, the loneliness that weighed on him. Ayanna listened, nodding, understanding without judgment. He felt a connection that transcended words, grounded in shared humanity. She, in turn, spoke of fleeting memories from her youth, stories of her people and her journey across the harsh terrain to survive. Her voice was melodic yet firm, commanding attention effortlessly. Caleb absorbed each word, realizing that courage often came dressed in quiet humility, and he had witnessed it in its purest form. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying the scent of sage and sun-baked soil. Caleb kept watch, rifle within reach, but his attention frequently returned to Ayanna. Her presence was a balm to the tension of the frontier, a reminder that even amidst hardship, hope could take root. He found himself guarding more than just his property. He was guarding her. By midnight, the temperature dropped, and the desert's chill seeped into their bones. Caleb offered her a blanket, draping it over her shoulders with care. She accepted, glancing at him with a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. There was a silent acknowledgment in her eyes. Trust had begun to form, fragile but growing with each shared moment. The fire crackled, throwing shadows that danced across the cabin walls. Caleb noticed the way her gaze lingered on him, subtle yet undeniable. He felt a warmth rising in his chest, a recognition that protection had evolved into something more, a quiet admiration. Tempered by respect and empathy, Ayanna shifted slightly closer to the fire, allowing the warmth to reach her face. Caleb's hands itched to reach out again, but he restrained himself, aware of the delicate balance forming between them. Every movement, every glance, carried meaning heavier than words. In that shared space, something profound was unfolding. The night stretched on, punctuated by occasional desert sounds, an owl's cry, the rustle of leaves, the distant howl of a wolf. Caleb felt the enormity of the desert pressing in around them, yet within the circle of firelight, a small sanctuary existed, shielded by trust, courage, and the quiet beginnings of something deeper. Ayanna's voice broke the silence softly. "Thank you for refusing." Caleb shook his head. "No, you shouldn't be payment for anything. That's not the way I live." Her eyes softened, and for the first time, a smile hinted at the edges of her lips. The desert seemed to pause, acknowledging a subtle victory. He studied her markings again, fascinated by the artistry and meaning behind each symbol. Each stroke told a story of survival, of family, of culture, a heritage he had never known but instantly respected. He realized that courage was not just in action but in bearing one's history visibly, proudly, even in peril. The cabin walls provided little insulation from the desert night, yet inside, a fragile warmth had grown. Caleb felt the weight of responsibility settle on him, not just to protect Ayanna from external threats, but to honor her trust and the life she carried before him. It was a new burden, yet one he welcomed. Their conversation ebbed and flowed with soft pauses, moments of shared laughter and comfortable silences. Caleb noticed how natural her presence felt, how easy it was to speak without fear of judgment. In a world where violence often dictated survival, this rare peace was almost intoxicating. Hours passed. The stars arched high above, illuminating the desert with silver light. Caleb's mind wandered, imagining the possibilities this night had opened. Ayanna was not merely a companion. She was a force of nature, her strength both inspiring and humbling. He felt honored to share space with her. The fire dwindled, embers glowing like scattered stars on the ground. Caleb moved closer to ensure she was comfortable, adjusting the blanket without a word. Her eyes followed his movements, revealing trust and acknowledgement of his protection. In that gesture, silence spoke volumes. Communicating what words could not, Ayana shifted her position slightly, allowing herself to relax. Caleb noticed her small sigh of relief, the tension in her shoulders melting. In this moment, surrounded by desert vastness and quiet night, the world narrowed to the two of them, the fire, and the fragile connection that had begun to form. The wind picked up, rustling dry brush and carrying distant sounds from the plains. Caleb's senses remained alert, but his heart acknowledged the presence beside him. There was more than fear or obligation here. There was understanding, admiration, and a spark that neither had expected in the unforgiving frontier. Their hands brushed again briefly, a fleeting contact charged with silent acknowledgement. Both felt the lingering warmth of human connection, a spark amid isolation. Caleb realized that this night would not be forgotten. It would mark the start of a story neither could anticipate. One shaped by courage, choice, and unexpected kinship. The desert seemed to hold its breath as Caleb and Ayana sat together, watching embers float upward, disappearing into the night. He felt a deep sense of purpose, guarding not only his home but a life that deserved protection. In turn, she felt safe for the first time in months. By the time the first hints of dawn touched the horizon, a quiet understanding had formed between them. Caleb recognized that his choice to refuse the trader had repercussions far beyond finances. He had chosen honor over convenience, and that choice had begun a journey neither he nor Ayana could have foreseen. The fire had burned low, but its warmth remained. Caleb and Ayana, bound by circumstance and courage, understood the fragile beginnings of trust, protection, and something unspoken yet undeniable. The night had shifted everything, turning a simple refusal into a profound act of connection. The desert sun rose harsh and bright over the New Mexico plains, casting long shadows across Caleb Turner's small homestead. Dust clung to fences and wagon wheels as he repaired the gaps, his weathered hands moving with practiced precision. Every glance toward the horizon reminded him that danger could appear at any moment. Ayana moved silently beside him, learning the rhythms of frontier life. Her movements were careful but graceful, each step measured as if the earth itself might betray her. Caleb observed her closely, noting her strength and poise. Her survival instincts were evident, honed through hardship, and he found himself admiring the elegance of her cautious, purposeful actions. They shared sparse meals and quiet companionship, broken by occasional laughter carried on the wind or the distant neigh of horses. Caleb noticed how Ayana absorbed every detail, studying the landscape, the fences, and the animals. She asked questions quietly, learned quickly, and never wasted effort. Her intelligence impressed him, and a deep respect began to form alongside his protective instincts. Days passed under the scorching sun, their routines solidifying into a rhythm of trust and cooperation. Caleb learned of her past hardships and fears, gaining insight into the resilience that had brought her to him. Each story, each revelation strengthened his admiration and forged a bond beyond survival. A connection rooted in shared respect and understanding. One evening, as the sky burned shades of orange and crimson, distant hoofbeats rattled the horizon. Caleb's instincts screamed caution. "Trouble?" Ayana asked softly. He nodded, moving to the cabin doorway with rifle in hand. The trader had returned, now accompanied by several men, determined to force payment he had previously refused. Ayana stood beside him without hesitation, calm and steady. Caleb realized that her courage matched his own, her presence a source of silent strength. Together they prepared for confrontation, sharing a glance that conveyed understanding without words. The desert held its breath, the wind carrying tension and the scent of sagebrush, amplifying every sound and movement. As the traders approached, Caleb stepped forward, gun raised and unwavering. "She stays with me," he declared, voice steady and unflinching. The leader laughed, drawing his weapon, but faltered under the intensity of Caleb's gaze. Fearless and resolute, Caleb projected a force the men could not ignore, a warning that harm would have consequences they could not survive. Ayana's presence beside him reinforced his determination. her calm composure like a silent declaration of solidarity. The traders, recognizing the unspoken power of their alliance, hesitated. Words were exchanged, subtle gestures measured. Tension crackled, thick in the desert air, until finally, acknowledging defeat, they turned and rode off, cursing as dust swirled in their wake. Caleb lowered his rifle slowly, exhaling with relief. He turned toward Ayana, noticing for the first time the faint curve of a smile on her lips. "You saved me," she whispered, voice trembling slightly. Caleb shook his head gently, grasping her hands. "We saved each other," he replied. Feeling the truth of those words in the depths of his chest, from that day forward, Caleb remained near the ridge, teaching Ayana the ways of the frontier. Together, they hunted game, repaired fences, and patrolled the surrounding desert for threats. Their trust deepened with each passing day, evolving into admiration, and over time, admiration blossomed into a quiet, unspoken love that neither expected but both embraced. Under the vast desert sky. Nights were spent by fires, the stars scattering silver light across sand and sage. Caleb listened as Ayana shared memories and stories of her childhood, her culture, and her people. Each tale enriched his understanding, and he marveled at the depth of her resilience. The quiet dignity that had carried her through so much hardship. Ayana, in turn, watched Caleb, observing the man behind the weathered exterior. She saw strength, courage, and unwavering principles, a protector shaped by the harsh frontier. She found herself trusting him more deeply than she had trusted anyone. Drawn to the steadfastness in his gaze and the quiet gentleness beneath his rugged exterior. One particularly clear night. Under a blanket of stars, she whispered, "I never thought I'd find safety. Or someone who sees me." Caleb took her hand, fingers entwining with hers, warmth spreading between them. "Sometimes life chooses for us," he said softly. "And sometimes it gives second chances." The desert wind carried their laughter across the plains. They worked side by side through the long days, repairing fences, guiding horses, and tending small gardens. Caleb showed Ayana how to track the land, recognize signs of predators, and navigate the unforgiving terrain. Each lesson strengthened her confidence, and Caleb marveled at how quickly she adapted, matching his pace and understanding the subtle rhythms of the frontier. Days turned into weeks, and their connection grew beyond survival. Shared tasks became moments of intimacy, gestures filled with unspoken meaning. When Caleb offered her food, their fingers brushed. When she shared stories, he listened intently. The small homestead became a space of trust, respect, and slowly unfolding love. Protected against the chaos of the wider world, occasionally, they caught glimpses of traders or bandits on the horizon, a reminder that danger still lingered. But their alliance was strong, and their bond provided courage neither could find alone. Caleb found peace in Ayana's presence, a rare reprieve from the solitude of frontier life. She, in turn, found safety and companionship she had long sought but never dared to hope for. One late afternoon, the wind carried distant laughter and the clatter of hooves. Caleb's hand instinctively rested on his rifle, but Ayana's calm grip on his arm reminded him they were together, a united front. There was no fear between them, only determination, trust, and a growing realization that their fates were intertwined. Evenings were quiet and reflective, spent under the stars with the fire crackling softly. Caleb and Ayana shared dreams, hopes, and whispered fears. Each word brought them closer, building a foundation of emotional intimacy that neither had anticipated. The desert, once empty and lonely, now felt alive with connection and possibility. Seasons shifted, and life on the homestead grew steadier. Caleb's protection allowed Ayana to flourish, and she in turn brought vitality and perspective to his days. Their routines intertwined naturally, from tending animals to repairing structures, each task strengthening the rhythm of trust and care that had become the core of their lives. One starlit night. As firelight flickered across the cabin walls, Caleb gazed at Ayana, seeing the strength, courage, and resilience that had first captured his attention. Their hands met, fingers interlocking, a simple gesture that spoke volumes of love, loyalty, and unspoken promises. The desert whispered around them, holding their secret in its vast silence. In time, their connection evolved into something profound and lasting. Caleb no longer saw Ayanna as a burden, nor did she see him as simply a protector. They became partners, companions, and eventually lovers, united by shared danger, respect, and quiet acts of courage that had bound them together in the unforgiving frontier. The desert wind carried the sounds of their laughter and whispered words, mingling with the calls of distant wildlife. Caleb and Ayanna moved together with ease, communicating without words, understanding the subtle cues that only deep familiarity can create. Every day reinforced their bond, cementing trust into love. Through storms, dust, and uncertainty, they faced life together. The traitor who had once sought to exploit her became a distant memory, a reminder of the cruelty and challenges they had overcome. Their victory lay not in violence but in resilience, courage, and unity, proving that honor and love could prevail in a harsh world. Ultimately, their story became a quiet legend across the territory. Neighbors spoke in hushed tones of the cowboy, who refused to let injustice prevail, and the Apache woman who matched him in courage and heart. Their tale of defiance, loyalty, and unexpected love became a beacon, a narrative that endured beyond individual lifetimes. Under the vast, starlit sky, Caleb and Ayanna's hands remained intertwined. Their eyes met, full of unspoken understanding and gratitude. Together they had transformed fear into trust, survival into partnership, and fleeting moments into a lifelong connection that neither time nor hardship could sever. The desert night embraced them, quiet and eternal as their laughter mingled with the wind. Caleb's gaze softened and Ayanna leaned into him, resting her head lightly on his shoulder. In that moment, all the dangers, debts, and challenges of the past seemed to fade, leaving only the certainty of love, protection, and shared destiny. Their lives, once marked by hardship and uncertainty, now flowed together, defined by mutual respect, trust, and the love forged in the crucible of the frontier. Caleb had found not only honor and redemption, but a partner whose courage matched his own. Ayanna had found safety, belonging, and a man willing to stand against the world for her. Their union, born from debt, danger, and courage, was now a testament to survival, loyalty, and love that neither circumstance nor time could erase. Even as dawn painted the desert anew, the cabin stood as a symbol of everything they had overcome. Each day, each shared task, each quiet moment strengthened the bond they had built in fire, dust, and wind. Caleb and Ayanna faced life together, undaunted, resolute, and in love. The story of Caleb Turner and Ayanna spread slowly through the territory, a legend not of riches or battles, but of the courage to protect, the wisdom to honor, and the power of love that could withstand the harshest frontier. Under the endless sky, they sat side by side, hands entwined, hearts aligned, knowing that the trials they had faced were merely the beginning. Their shared journey had only just begun, and the desert itself seemed to promise a future rich with possibility, safety, and enduring love.